I always have said in my 30s and 40s how by the time you hit 50, you want to be at your peak of performance in your body because muscle atrophy happens, and it happens to us probably already at around 40, early 40s. We just don't see the effect as fast. And when all of a sudden we hit 50 and we're like, what happened? But it's been going on for a while. We just haven't seen the big change like we do in our 50s.
Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Kerstin Schulze, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Kerstin Schulze, back again this week with another awesome suburban warrior here to share her story with you. And this week, we are going to be talking about the very fun topic of fitness because you know what? We can never really get enough of this topic because as women, we're always trying to learn more about how best to move our bodies, especially in this time of midlife. How can we continue to stay strong when we really are trying to work with, bone loss, muscle loss at a rapid rate. And, we're being told eat more protein and lift more weights, which is all amazing advice. But I think we need to get a little bit more into some of these nitty gritty details about how do we do that? And how do we really move our bodies for overall and complete wellness, really for health and longevity? So let me introduce to you my next guest, Kerstin Schulze. She is a global fitness, wellness, and personal transformation force. Born and raised in Germany, she achieved early success as a junior Olympic silver medalist in the heptathlon at just 12 years old. Her passion for movement and performance extended into theater, where she toured with a high school troupe in Munich and developed a love for improvisation, a skill she continues to leverage in her career today. At 16, Kerstin's journey took a stylish turn with her first modeling job for an Italian fashion designer, leading to runway shows and ultimately a profound connection to fitness and health. She competed nationally in fitness figure competitions and landed roles in TVs and commercials, which fueled her desire to inspire others. Over 2 decades in California, Kerstin has become a sought-after coach for high-profile clients like Nicole Ari Parker, Julie Berman, Chris Hemsworth, and Robert Patrick. Her story is one of adaptability, perseverance, and action, a philosophy she now shares as a speaker, podcast guest, and expert in unlocking human potential. Welcome to the podcast, Kerstin.
Well, thank you for having me, Chrissy. Love the introduction. My God, can I have that every day, please? I
know, exactly. Well, you are a force, and wow, what a past you have had. Coming from Germany, what an Olympic medalist, a fashion model. I mean, come on, this is an amazing bio. You got to get excited when you read that. So I can't wait to hear a little bit more about you. So, we're going to talk all things fitness, but let's get into hearing a little bit more about you and your story.
All right. Well, you heard a lot about in a short, condensed version.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was always into sports, but it was more about, for me, I wasn't thinking about sports. I was thinking about what made me feel good. And, I didn't have a good home to go home to. And so sports was my escape. It was my feel good. It was where I felt strong. It's where I felt I belonged. And with that, I competed and did the heptathlon, so high jump, far jump, shot put, 200, 400 meter sprints, relay. And I won the silver medal there. And I just loved being around athletes. I loved being around movement and action. Yeah. And when you do improv, there's a lot of movement, a lot of action. So it all combines and it's all together. And never wanted to be a model, but I was approached to model and I was like, okay, I'll try it, I guess. But it wasn't my love, it was.
Yeah.
I loved fitness. And so I actually moved over into fitness modeling, and then that led to some roles on TV. But it was always about my physicality in the beginning, and then a little bit about acting and stuff like that. I've been in California now for 24 years and built a business here. And the way I built my business here was really with competing first, living the lifestyle so I can, talk about it. And my success rate was very, very high as far as helping others to transform. So long story short, I competed with that. I was in magazines. People saw me in magazines. They asked me for questions of how to. And I have 2 children, so I already know. I also know how to transform the body after pregnancy. And now I'm 51, and I'm in full menopause, and that's I call it the second puberty.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The one we weren't prepared for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
everyone tells us to prepare for the first puberty, but no one really geared us up for what's
no,
happening. Yeah.
no, and doctors don't. They just brush
Nope.
it. I just saw a doctor, and she just brushed it a little bit under the. Oh, you just get over it. You just weather the
Oh,
storm kind of deal. And
oh
I'm like, no,
no.
no, 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 no. This is not. So I dove really
Time to
deep
see a different
into.
doctor.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's what I thought too.
Yep.
I dove deeply into figuring out how to maneuver around aging and staying fit,
Yeah.
and helping my body to be at its best performance and with the least side effects. Like the hot flashes and the cravings and even after pregnancies, getting dialed back in. Doctor told me you shouldn't be working out for 6 weeks. I was
Right.
working out after 2 weeks, and I just don't understand why doctors say certain things to you, when and all along it helps the body to be way more
Active.
active.
Yeah,
Yes,
and moving. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I went and got certified and I went to college for nutrition and fitness. I got certified in body pump and body sculpting. I went and I got a business degree. I got certified in TRX, all the things that I wanted to use myself. And I now have in my toolbox to help others. And I've trained people to get ready in front of a camera really quickly. They have 3 months usually to 6 months time. They don't have a lot of time. And then I help executives who have more time, who are really, really busy, and how do they fit a workout into their schedules and still transform.
Yeah. And don't you think that, so you see such an array of clients, and don't you think, well, I should ask, do you think that there are specific exercises and specific ways of moving your body at different stages of your life?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When we're teenagers, we're actually our muscle burns really, really fast.
Yeah.
And we have to do shorter sets, heavier, and not too heavy. You only want to do about 10% of your own body weight when you're a teenager. And then when you're in your 20s and 30s, you can go heavier because your skeletal has developed enough. And we have testosterone on our side. So we don't stress. Our body can handle stress way differently than when we are in our 40s and 50s, where we have to worry about the cortisol levels going up, because the
Yeah.
body only knows to survive. So now the testosterone goes down, estrogen and progesterone are off the charts or need to be balanced. So there are different ways to train now for in your 40s and 50s and 60s than I did in my 20s and 30s, for sure.
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, when you're in your 40s and 50s, you should do short sets, like shorter workouts, but more effective, like functional strength training, movements that incorporate the upper and the lower body at the same time would be great. And then also doing something high intensity for like 20 to 30 seconds only, not
Okay.
for a minute or 3 minutes, or running long distance. I believe that if you're doing, let's say you're doing jumping jacks for 20 seconds, and then you need 2 minutes to burn off what the body mobilized, because it just goes into your fat storage and your glycogen storage, which needs to be emptied out first, which takes about 20 minutes. But if you do it first thing in the morning, you're already emptied out because you don't have any fuel in the tank.
Yeah.
And the body can then get into fat storage, and it takes about 2 minutes to burn it off. So
Okay.
that when we're in our 20s and 30s, we don't have to worry about that.
Right. So for people maybe in their 40s, 50s, maybe like a HIIT training, because
Yes, one of the
yeah.
best things to do. Functional strength
Okay.
training and HIIT trainings are one of the best things to do.
Okay. And when you say functional strength training, I just want to make sure listeners understand what that is. Is that what you mean by like movements that are like upper body and lower body at the same time, or like lunges, with weights,
Yes.
like that sort of thing?
So a lot of kettlebell workouts, for instance,
Okay. Okay.
involve functional strength training. So you're doing a press and a step at the same
Yes.
time. So
Yes.
you're
Yep.
moving your lower and your upper body at the same time. You can do a squat,
Gotcha.
hammer, and a press with dumbbells as well.
Yeah.
But anything that involves the core, lateral movements, forward movements, things that we do in a daily basis. Like when I get out of the car, I'm using a ladder, I'm doing a squat, lateral
Yeah.
movement. And sometimes people pull themselves up. So there's all kinds of movements. You can use a cable and do a pull and a squat at the same time, or a reverse lunge and a pull. So now it becomes a functional strength training,
Yes.
which now also jump starts your fat burn. Your metabolic rate goes up because you're using way more energy. You can do it in a shorter period of time. And you can work on stability, the muscles that stabilize the joints and the ankle strength. All of these are super important the older we get. And lifting weights builds stronger bones. And what happens when we get older? Our bones get more brittle. So really important, besides just high protein, as you mentioned already, and high fat, is to lift heavy weights.
Yeah. Okay. So let's clarify that, because I'm curious, because I hear that a lot, and I have been lifting a lot heavier. I'm 50. I'm in full on menopause. And I have been lifting heavier weights as well. But so obviously you've been lifting weights your whole life. At 12 years old, you were an Olympic athlete. So what you lift might be a little bit different than what the average woman might be lifting. But let's say for a woman who has been doing a ton of cardio her whole life and running and, not really lifting a lot of weights. But then, she's in her 40s and 50s and she's being told now we have to eat 100 grams of protein plus a day and lift heavy, quote unquote, weights. Like, what is heavy weights, and like, where are we starting?
Great question. It means 80% of your capability. So if you're picking
Okay.
up something and you can only lift it one time, that is 100%. So you want to
Okay.
pick up a weight that is 80% of your strength. So that means
Okay.
you can do it at least 5 times. If you can't do 5 reps with it, it's too heavy.
Okay.
And if you can do 5 to 12 reps, then that's your perfect. The last 3 reps should be challenging, should be where you're like, you want to stop at 9, but you're going to squeeze out the last 3. And that's when
Okay.
we are, because the muscle is developed by stretch and pump. So we want to get to a point where we have to stretch the muscle and then pump it full with food, blood flow, water, all of these things are important.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you want to go to the point of failure and around between reps 9 to 12.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Great.
yes.
That's a good guide to start to be able to figure that out. And obviously, that's different weight for everything. Like an overhead press, you're going to be using different weights for a squat and that sort of thing.
Right.
So for
You
each
know, and
move, you have to figure out what weights work for you.
absolutely. And I always start, I do 4 sets with people
Okay.
because I always say the first set is really just to see how strong you are for that day. Don't jump right into the heaviest weight. You can get tendonitis, shoulder problems, rotator problems,
Yeah.
lower back problems if you are going too heavy too fast. So the first set is really for you to figure out, where is my 80% today? And
Yeah.
your 80% is not the same every day.
Right. That's actually a really great point, because I think as women too, we beat ourselves up for, am I weaker today than I was yesterday? Why can't I lift this heavy? But I think that's a great point, that like, if you are doing multiple sets, to sort of start somewhere and work yourself up, and not really let the negative self-talk come in or start beating yourself up if your heavy is different today than it was yesterday.
Absolutely. As long as you challenge your body, you're fine. Your body, sometimes maybe needs a little more recovery time or whatever it is going through, you want to give it its best that day,
Yeah.
whatever number that is. So don't get too hung up on numbers.
Yeah. Okay. I like that advice. And also because I know that the research that I have seen recently, and by recently I mean really in the last like year or so, it's really like muscle is being called like the organ of longevity for us. And,
Hmm.
it's really coming out now about like, obviously the musculoskeletal system working in tandem together, but with our bone and muscle and all of these things that are happening as we lose them and they're sort of eating themselves up in menopause, and how we have to do the work to help continue to build that the both bone and muscle during this time of midlife, both perimenopause and menopause. So for any listeners that are thinking like, oh, I'm not even close to the menopause yet because I'm 38, really the issue is that's when you really need to start thinking about it, because it's in those years leading up to menopause that really all of this starts to happen in your body that you're not really even realizing it, right?
Absolutely. I always have said in my 30s and 40s how by the time you hit 50, you want to be at your peak of performance in your
Yeah.
body because muscle atrophy happens and it happens to us probably already at around 40, early 40s. We
Yeah.
just don't see the effect as fast. And when all of a sudden we hit 50 and we're like, what happened? But it's
Yeah.
been going on for a while. We just haven't seen the big change like we do in our 50s. And I'm not saying it's never too late to start. I have a 94-year-old
Never.
gentleman and I have a 73-year-old woman who has fought cancer for 4 years and is now in a remission and working out and working on her posture. It is never, ever too late to start with weights, ever. It is easier to do it in your 30s and 40s and have it
Yeah.
have the base by the time you hit 50. So you're already ahead of the game if you have done that. So if your listeners are in their 40s right now, get into the gym, make it a regular, make it more important than anything you have ever done, because you only get one body and you
Yeah.
can slow down aging by having muscle and by living in a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we talked about HIIT training and functional strength training. Do you have like a little special combination that you like, or that you would recommend that like HIIT training twice a week, functional strength training twice a week? Do you have a little combo that you think works the best, or?
Yes, I do. So I always pick a large muscle group. So what is a large muscle group? The back, because it has a lot of muscles in there. The quads, the front of your legs, the back of your legs, the hamstring, which is the most undertrained muscle in the human body, and the glutes.
Yeah.
Those four are the biggest muscle groups on the body. So I pick one of those. And
Okay.
then I'm going to pick a glute because I don't think anybody likes a saggy butt.
Because you can't do too much glute work.
No.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, well, then you could, but we want to
Yeah.
keep the glutes in there, at least one exercise with it. Then I use a core exercise,
Okay.
be it either exercise that keeps the core tight or an exercise that builds the core's muscle strength, right? So there's
Okay.
two different kinds. And then use a small muscle group. It could be the shoulder, the bicep, the tricep, and the chest. Those are all small muscle groups. And I create a circuit. So let's say I'll start with squats. Then I go into a bicep curl, or I can do a squat, bicep curl, press all together. And then I'll do a plank. A plank tightens the core really well. Or if I can do a reverse plank. If you can't be on your elbows, you can just sit on a chair and pick up your feet and your arms. And there's a reverse plank, and you can hold it for 30 seconds to a minute. And then I'll do a glute exercise like a hip thrust, which is super
Yeah.
good for if you have lower back issues. And I'm very specialized in helping people with injuries to maneuver through exercises, because we all have it. By the time we hit 40, we have aches and pains.
Yes.
By the time,
Yes.
especially when we hit 50, you're just like, oh, this doesn't feel too good. And there's certain exercises that you can do to strengthen the muscles around the joint and help injuries to heal faster. So I think high intensity interval training, meaning that one big muscle group, one small muscle group, one core exercise, and then the glute, pick one, is a great way to get a workout in within 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. And then would you do 4 sets of that?
I would do 4 sets.
Okay. Okay, great. I
And the
like
first
that.
one it's just warm up. So don't go crazy. Just see where you are and how you
Yeah.
feel. Yeah. And then when you say, oh, I feel like I can do more, then go more, but don't go full out. And if you feel like, oh, this is too heavy, drop the weight. Never ever train with ego
Yeah.
because that's when we get injured. Just
Right.
train with how you feel and what the body tells you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, you absolutely have to listen to your body. But to your point about injuries, I think you make a great point because there are a lot of times when we have aches and pains or we might have an injury, but yet with an injury in one area of your body, you usually can still move other areas of your body, right? To sort of keep
Absolutely.
right keeping movement going, keeping the blood pumping, instead of like choosing maybe to do nothing,
Yes,
right? Because any
absolutely.
movement is good movement.
Absolutely. I mean, I have been injured. I surf as well. So I was out surfing big waves and my board came flying at me and hit my arm and dislocated my shoulder.
Oh,
So I went and popped my shoulder back in myself
oh
and
my
by holding
gosh.
onto the table. And it was hurting. So
Yeah.
I did exercises, shoulder exercises. So when you have a rotator issue, for instance, don't do a flat bench, do an incline bench because it's easier on the rotators. Grab the dumbbells like an A shape or do exercises that are really strengthening the shoulder like band works. Bands are really, really good to help injuries to recover faster and build the
Yeah.
muscle still. So, because if we stop exercising the injury, then the blood flow to the injury will stop too. Then we're building
Yes.
scar tissue, and then it's actually going to get worse. So we always want to create blood flow. That's why physical therapy works, right? Because they're creating blood flow to an injury. And if you don't know how to do it, find a professional that knows how to do the movements, and then just learn. And then you might need one to two classes, and then you can go and do it on your own. But I definitely believe that, like, I have a second degree MCL tear. So I was out dancing, and this gentleman fell backwards on me. He was a little tipsy, so he
Oh
fell
no.
on my knee, and I couldn't move my leg the next day. So I went and had an MRI done, and sure enough, I have a second degree MCL tear.
Oh no.
So I know not to do lateral movement. I put on a copper sleeve. I do some peptide treatment on it, and I do lunges. Lunges are
Yeah.
super good to strengthen the muscle that carries the knee, the quadricep, and the teardrop in the front. So now most people would probably shy away from doing any exercises,
Yeah.
but actually we have to exercise. You just got to know which exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think that's very good advice. Speaking about muscles and maintaining, muscle mass, there's a lot of talk out there and about creatine lately and supplementing creatine, especially for women in menopause. I feel like when I first heard this about creatine, which was probably over a year ago, I thought to myself, creatine, isn't that what like bodybuilders take? And isn't that what men take to really bulk up? And, all of the research now is showing about that women, especially women in menopause, should be taking a creatine supplement every day to really help sort of minimize, or help with that muscle loss, a little bit because of what creatine does. What is your take on creatine supplement?
Definitely. And you should take
Yeah.
it every day.
Yeah.
Creatine. Now, the creatine that we used to have as bodybuilders back in the day used to bloat you and pull water and all of that. And
Yeah.
you had to be
Yeah.
careful. You had to preload and all that. The creatine you have nowadays, like Thor, for instance,
Yeah. Yeah. That's the one I use, Thorn. Yeah.
yeah, they are just really, really, really good products, and they don't
Yeah.
pull water anymore. And what it does, basically, it just helps you to increase your strength. It helps you to intensify your workout. It helps for muscle growth, and it improves recovery. So I think creatine is really, really important on a daily basis. Even when you don't work out, you should be taking creatine as well as glutamine. Glutamine is an amino that the
Oh, yeah.
body produces itself and is good for 300 different reasons, not just for the muscle, but your whole body is a protein, all your
Yes.
cells. So we need to feed the aminos to the body. And so creatine and glutamine are a staple in my house, and you should take it every day,
Okay.
especially when you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. Yes, you have to.
Yeah. And then are you also, I mean, have you been eating? I know, I think it's funny because, the women in menopause, like what we hear is like, now it's like, the joke is like, you can't eat enough protein. Like everybody is talking about how we have to eat all this protein. And I get it. And it makes sense. And I'm only laughing because I'm thinking to myself, you've probably been doing this your whole life, because if you have been building muscle and, you're a fitness model, you've known this for a long time, how important protein is, and you obviously know nutrition. So I guess for you to hear all of this protein intake, you're like, yeah, duh. Right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. And in my when I started competitions, I didn't start competitions until I was 29. So I learned about nutrition in my 20s because of I went to the gym to do bodybuilding because the doctor told me I needed to have surgery on my knee. I did an internship with a physical therapist, and she's the one who actually told me go bodybuild, because
Yeah.
now you're building singly the balance in your performance. Because when we do high performance athletes, we overcompensate one side more than the other, right?
Okay.
When we're running, when we're jumping, we always have one side that's more powerful than the other. And it can cause an imbalance in our body. So bodybuilding actually helps you to build a balance in your body, especially when you're doing singles. So I think it's really important to do that. But to build the muscle that I wanted, I needed to eat 1.5 grams of protein per pound. So that
Yeah.
means I ate 5 to 6 meals a day with protein in it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't like shakes at the time. I finally have found a shake that I like, that is of my standards and that I can tolerate. But before, I didn't like shakes at all when I competed. And so when my clients come to me and I tell them, I look at their diet, because I always ask them for the first 3 days, let me see
Yeah.
what you've done the last 3 days. So I learn their patterns, and so I
Sure.
can maneuver things around. Most of the time, they don't eat enough protein.
Yeah.
And there are surprises like, well, how am I supposed to eat all this protein? Because you really need 1 gram of protein per pound that you are. So if
Yeah.
you are a 145-pound woman or man, you need to eat at least 100 or drink 145 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
Now, one chicken breast is around 35 grams of protein.
Yeah.
An 8-ounce fish is about 30 grams of protein. A filet mignon is about 30 grams of protein. I always say make the hand. So if you do the long
Yeah.
hand, full hands, that's your fish. Then your to your knuckles of your hand, and it's your chicken. And then your fist, that's really, or the inside of your palm, that's your steak. And that's about 30 grams to 35 grams of protein. Well, if I had to eat that, or 6 eggs, 5 eggs is 35 grams of protein. 6 eggs is 35 grams of protein. That means I would have to eat a lot of food. Can I
Yes.
digest all that food? No. So the best way to do it is with shakes.
Yeah.
Get your smoothie in, get your shakes, and you can pack it full with so many nutrients. You literally can put 40 to 50 grams of protein in one shake.
Yeah.
That's your biggest game changer right there, because we can't eat it all,
I
and
know.
then especially if you're doing intermittent fasting, which is a
Right.
great benefit for you. You can only eat
Yeah.
3 meals,
Oh
unless
my
you
God,
just
Kirsten, you are like speaking my language, girl, because I mean, it is literally my challenge on a daily basis, because I am trying to eat like, all of that protein, 100, I'm trying to get a gram per pound, trying to eat a lot of fiber, but I do intermittent fasting. So my first meal isn't really happening until like late morning, early or afternoon. And it is hard to get in all it's just I can't even eat that much, but
yeah.
I want to fuel my body in the right way, and I want to give my body the proper building blocks. So I have been doing the smoothie like you said, because I have found that like if I can add in like 3/4 a cup of Greek yogurt, that's whole fat, plain Greek yogurt, and then add a scoop of a protein powder in it, and just keep, and then I do flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds, and
Yeah,
it all,
fantastic.
it does add up to your point where you can get a meal in that has like 50 to 60 grams of protein, at least in one meal. Because
Yes.
let's be honest, it's hard. I mean, I can't eat 6 eggs in a sitting.
I know
I
most
mean,
people can.
yeah, I mean, that's a lot, you know?
That's
I
a
mean,
lot,
I could
yeah.
eat a chicken breast, but 6 eggs. So, anyway, that's why I laugh about the protein thing, because
But
I
I
think
bet
it's
you
just,
could drink it. You could drink those six
yes,
eggs
yes,
like
yes.
Rocky.
Yeah, I could. I could. I don't know. I might throw them right back up, but I could. So anyway, I think that perspective is a great one about adding in a smoothie, or that's like another way. I do think it's important to really, like you said, you have to find a really good source of protein powder, because not all protein powders are the same. So I think making
Yeah.
sure you find a clean one that you feel good drinking. Make sure you look at the ingredients, make sure it's sourced from, clean ingredients. I think that's, super important. And then there's a lot of variability, right? There's whey proteins, there's plant protein powders with pea proteins, and, all these different sources. So, I don't know I think whey is pretty good. Some people can't tolerate it, but where do you
Well,
stand on that?
just know the difference. Whey protein used to bloat me, and
Okay.
some plant protein can bloat people. So for
Yeah.
me, the whey protein was just bloating me too much. But when I competed, that's all we had. There was no
Yeah. Yeah.
plant-based protein powder. That didn't come until what? It's been around for now that I know of 5 years, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, 7 years, because I've been using Arbonne's protein powder now for 7 or 8 years. So when I found
Okay.
that, I was like, oh my God, yes. But before that, it was whey protein. So it's a great one to build muscle, whey protein, and if it works for you, great. Casein protein is there as well. Casein protein
Yeah.
is what is in cottage cheese too, and it's a slow release protein, which is a perfect protein for at night.
Okay.
Because it breaks down and is very slow and feeds the muscle slower than plant-based protein like pea protein or hemp protein and whey protein. So I always say use the casein protein at night. And you see cottage cheese everywhere right now. Make your
Everywhere.
cottage cheese at night. Eat that, or make yourself a bread and then put some chicken in it. There you have a double protein right there
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of bread.
Exactly. Cottage cheese is like the new cauliflower. I mean, you can make bagels from cottage cheese and chips from cottage cheese, and it's just amazing. Like all of the
Yeah.
recipes that people are making with cottage cheese now. But if you like it's cottage cheese, it's really delicious.
Oh, that's all
Like
I
all
ate in
these different
college. I couldn't
recipes.
afford anything else. It
Yeah.
was cottage cheese and peas. Can of
I
tuna.
know.
That's it. That's all I could
Yeah.
afford.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, that was very helpful for you, because the cottage cheese is the way to go these days.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about workouts. We talked about muscle building and supplements. Any other like workouts that you really love besides the strength, functional strength and HIIT training? Any other workouts that you think are great workouts for women to think about or consider to help with building muscle? And
Definitely. I think hiking is really good.
oh, great, yeah,
Hiking is really, really good for glute development, leg development. You get out in nature, it lowers your cortisol level. At our age, we always have to worry about cortisol levels. And the
yeah,
reason why is because the body stresses easier. It doesn't have the stress balance like it normally used to. So we have to constantly keep the stress level down. And anything that I think Pilates and yoga is great to
yeah,
do for it, because it calms the mind down, it relaxes you in a great environment. I love dance classes, like a
yeah.
Zumba class, anything that makes me happy, releases the endorphins in my body. I'm moving, I'm
Love that.
doing so
I love
I
to
always
dance
say
too.
you should have strength training at least 3 days a week, and then
Okay.
do something that gets you out, that gets you around people that are of the same mind, because it's so hard to stay focused, right?
Yeah.
On your goal when you do it alone. But when you have people that are of the same mindset and you have fun with, be it hiking, be it swimming is so good, because if you have lower back issues, swimming is such a great vacuum around your core that it's the least impact on any damage, because it's like a vacuum around it. So you're going to get great workout. You can do a workout in a pool.
Yeah. I love doing workouts in the pool. Feels like jumping around because your body feels so light and free.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So especially if you have a lot of injuries, knee problems, lower back issues, a pool workout is excellent.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's good because we're coming up on spring and summer here on the East Coast where hopefully everyone's pools will be opening soon. So let's talk a little bit about that about mindset because I know you talk about sort of the power of small action and empowered action and how important that is. And I think again for women in this stage of our life, sometimes it's our thoughts and our mindset that can really hold us back. It's our thoughts and our mindset that can really tell us that, oh, we can't do something, or maybe we shouldn't try something new, or, maybe it's just about being motivated and not really feeling like we want to do it. So, I know part of what you do is like encouraging people to take these small empowered steps every day. I'd love to touch on that a little bit because I think the whole mental aspect that we're dealing with during this time of our life, it's sometimes hard to just find the motivation to start. And I think your message of small, empowered action each day is really meaningful and important, right? You don't have to go out and just start lifting 50-pound dumbbells. It's really about where we have to start somewhere and figuring out where that is for you, but little small actions each day. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in small actions. So for instance, if you are a beginner, you never ever done anything that requires you to work out and you just want to start, how do you start? And a lot of times I think people look at the look too big, it's like, oh, I got
Yeah.
to do an hour to get to that and I will never get that. So they talk themselves out of it. Instead, wake up in the morning only 10 minutes earlier, just 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
then set your mind, read something very positive. I think the way we start our day is very important. Don't go on social media. Don't compare yourself. Do something that feeds your soul.
Yeah.
And then only move for 5 minutes. I don't know, you could do some squatting, you can do some yoga, you could do some very light training of weights, right? And you only do 5 minutes. You set your timer and then you stop. You have to do this every day for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, you have started a new routine because motivation goes out the window after we say it. 7 days usually, and then people are not motivated anymore.
Yeah.
But discipline is what really brings you success. And discipline is what makes the deposit for your bank account, I call it. Your body is your bank account, right? We got to make a deposit to take a withdrawal. So
Yeah.
doing that in the morning for 5 minutes, I think really starts a routine that can be that you can, what do you call that? Desire, right? And if you don't
Yeah.
want to do it in the morning, you can do it at night. Just know at night, it takes an extra 20 minutes for the body to go into fat burn. So you always want to start with weights in the afternoon. Never, ever with cardio because you might as well just build muscle with the glycogen that is in your body. And then
Okay.
I always say, if you want to start with your nutrition, look at your dinners first. Don't worry about breakfast. Look at what you're eating
Yeah.
for dinner first. Because how you go to bed is how you will sleep, how your body recovers. Your body goes through a detox state and a recovery state when it sleeps. That is the most important. So that last meal before you go to bed is the most important. So cut the carbs at dinner. Have it for breakfast, have it for lunch, but don't have it at dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That is such great advice. So an ideal dinner would be really like, a source of protein, fiber by, vegetables, that sort of thing, and really no carbs, right?
Yeah,
Ideally?
yeah. Ideally, I don't think you need gas in the tank when you already got gas all day long. So I always
Yeah.
compare the body as to a car. And you wake up, you drive to the gas station, you put gas in it. You go to your refrigerator, you eat breakfast, or you eat your first meal, then you eat your second meal. Well, then it comes the third meal. Well, you're going to go to the gas station again.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about strictly carbs, not proteins and fats, but
Right.
carbs, because the body gets energy from fat and carbs. So, and it's always better to do it from fat, monosaturated fats, than from carbohydrates. But I still believe we need carbs. Your brain needs sugar to think.
Right. Right.
We
Right. Sure.
need gas in the tank. We just need to know when we take it. When you go into sleep and you park in your car, you don't need gas in the tank unless you have an activity that night that you need to
Right.
have gas in the tank, right? Otherwise than
Yeah.
that, I don't think you need it. And it
Yeah.
usually doesn't work in your favor. You don't sleep as well. You wake up more often, and your body stores it as fat because the metabolism slows down when we're sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. I love that. I think I love that you brought up the dinner time meal, because I think that end of the day meal is really important, especially again, this time in our lives when we're not really sleeping like we used to. So we're already having all these other sleep challenges where we might wake up and we might have trouble falling asleep. We might have trouble staying asleep. We might have racing thoughts in the middle of the night. We might have to get up and go to the bathroom 3 times. Like it's different for every woman, but I think it is pretty universal that a lot of women are having sleeping challenges. And I think eating a heavy meal at night too close to bedtime, or like you said, having a meal that has heavy carbohydrates for dinner is just going to continue to make that problem worse. And I don't think that people are thinking like that. They're not thinking like, oh, those mashed potatoes that I had with my steak at night are contributing to why I'm not really sleeping very well right now. Because these are not issues that we ever had to worry about in our 20s and 30s, and maybe even in our, 40s. But they are issues that are all coming to light now. So thanks for bringing up dinner, because I think that's an important topic to think
Yeah.
about for what
Thank
we're
you.
eating.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I always say too, because guys can get away with it. Where women,
Yeah.
we can't, we have,
Yeah.
we have a different body. So
Yeah.
don't eat like a man.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I don't eat like a man. You touched a little bit earlier on testosterone, and so I think again, a lot of women we're not talking about testosterone. I think as women we don't really realize that we make testosterone in our bodies up until we do hit perimenopause, and all of our reproductive hormones sort of start to slow down, and then our testosterone really dips and diminishes quite rapidly in menopause. So is that something that you hear a lot about with your clients, and with, again, it's just more of an issue of why we're not able to put muscle on?
Yes. So there's a whole component. It's funny. When I went to the doctor to get my talk about menopause, she told me that women really are not meant to have testosterone, and I thought that was the
Oh,
craziest thing to say to me. I'm like,
definitely need a new
I had,
doctor.
I know. Well, I'm not going back. So, it was just interesting what society's being told.
I know. I know.
Women have a lot of testosterone.
Yeah.
And that's why we can multifunction. That's why we can go, 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 go. We have a lot of
Yeah.
testosterone. Yes, it does decline when we get older. But
Yeah.
there's a secret of how you can jumpstart your HGH levels. And it's called prolonged fasting.
Okay.
So what I think is more important than ever is that to understand that prolonged fasting can actually jumpstart your HGH levels, your insulin sensitivity, and renew your cells.
Yeah.
So if you haven't tried it, and I have the whole plan on my site as well, you can do it once a month. I highly recommend it. And what it means is like you don't eat for 72 hours solids, right? So the first 24 hours you just do hydration, lots of hydration minerals in it. You can have tea, you can have sparkling water, you can have all kinds, as long as you just drink all day long in tea. And then the second day is where the HGH levels go ramp it up, and you do bone broths. Bone broths are
Yeah.
really good for collagen, for bone density. It's just super food for the body. And if you are a vegan, there's other mineral broths that you can take that are helping as well. And you do that for the second day, and then the third day, until you're 72 hours, you do the bone broth and then the hydration as well. It's been amazing. The second day, I have so much energy. And the first day, you might get a little bit of headache because the body gets rid of
Yeah.
things, especially if you drink wine or alcohol in general. We have to reset the body and get rid of the toxins in the liver. But if you don't even drink, there's a lot of things that is in our foods that we think is healthy, and they're actually not healthy. And we find out more and more, thank God, now that all these informations of organic and how it's been fed to
Yeah.
us has been a lie. And so a prolonged fasting really helps you to cleanse your body, raise your HGH levels. So I highly recommend it for especially women in menopause.
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard so much about the prolonged fasting. I try to do a 24-hour fast, sometimes like once a week, which is not 72 hours. But I think it is really important. And the research shows just how great it is for you, just for, autophagy and cellular renewal. And so I think that's great advice. Great advice. It's
Yeah.
not easy. Not easy to do.
No, I
but
remember.
but
Right. My
it's
stressed
worth it.
sister, it's totally worth it. My sister had a really hard time, and I had to coach her through it and talk to her because it's a mental. We're so
is.
mentally trained to constantly eat and drink all the
Yeah.
time, and especially eat in social settings and all these things that when we don't do it for a day, we go panic mode. It's like, oh my God, that's all you're going to think about. But to get to the HGH race and to get to the insulin sensitivity, you have to do 53 hours or you're not going to get that. So 24 hours, you're cleansing, you're going into the renewal of the cells, yes. But the insulin sensitivity doesn't start until you go into the second day. And usually that's around 53 hours. And I'm talking about like I start my day on Sunday night, my last meal. So by the time I wake up on Monday morning, I already have fasted for 12 hours or even longer. So by the time the second day comes around, the 53 hours around noontime, and that's where the magic happens, and just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you're inspiring me, Kerstin. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it.
Let's do it.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I could talk to you forever because you are just such a wealth of knowledge about all things fitness and nutrition and just all of these wonderful topics that are out there and that we need to hear about and we need to learn more about. But really, I think the most important one that we touched on today is the importance of moving our bodies and doing the best that we can to continue to maintain our muscle mass throughout this time, because it's not about how we look. It's about how we feel. It's about being functional, right? And it's about continuing to be able to be functional for a very long time for the rest of our life. And, in order to do that, we need to move our bodies and challenge them now.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Take
Thank you.
action.
Take action. Take empowered action each day.
That's right.
I love that. All right. Well, Kerstin, tell my listeners where they can find you on social media. Are you on Instagram and stuff?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So my Instagram handle is Party and Diet, and that's because I believe in a balance. You're gonna have social life and still diet. And then
that sounds about like me and all my friends.
yeah, right. We're all in the same boat. And then partyanddiet.com, you find all my programs that I just talked about, from going to the gym or for fitness for the busy lifestyle. If you just want to do it at home, you're traveling a lot, I have all the workouts on there. And also my track workouts, because I believe that we should still do little sprints. We talked about the 20 to 30 second speed that we need to do. And then you can find me. My personal page is Kerstin Schulze on Instagram as well. I keep them separate because of my acting world and my fitness world, so it's not too much.
Yeah. And we didn't even get to talk about Chris Hemsworth. Darn, I wanted to know some inside secrets. Is he a fun guy? Is he fun to work with?
Yeah, I met him when he first booked the role, Thor. And his wife was just pregnant with their first child. And he wasn't as big as he's now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I helped him with his nutrition, and my ex-husband at the time helped him with his supplements and what he should be doing to get to the size that he needed to.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, he's amazing in that role. I love him.
Oh, he's so nice. And
so great.
So charming. Yeah.
Oh, good.
He's everything
good.
you see on TV and some.
Oh, great. That's always so good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I loved having you on. And guys, thank you so much for joining us on Suburban Warrior. We are thrilled that you're here, and we are building a community here, and we would love for you to be a part of it. So make sure you go on Instagram, follow Suburban Warrior on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, and let us know what you think. Leave a comment, drop a rating and review in Apple Podcasts, leave a comment on Spotify, because the more you do that, the more that we will be able to share this podcast with other women so they can hear from my amazing guests like Kerstin, and we can all continue to learn and grow from each other. So thank you so much for being here, Kerstin. And guys, I'll be back next week with another amazing suburban warrior here to share her story with you. Until next time, see you guys.